Is everyone comfortable? Can you hear us all?
Hello, hello.
Okay, we're gonna start very relaxed.
Nice.
That's just who we are. We're both called Zara, but spelt differently. We're gonna start with some introductions, maybe a little bit of context about why we're here, and some kind of practical things. So we're really happy to be here. I'm Zara from YWMP Oxford. Thank you to Where Are the Girlbands for bringing us to this space. I don't know all the practical things about this space, but I know the toilet's there, and I'm guessing if we need to escape, we go that way. Yeah? There's 2 escapes. It's a very cool space for those who are on the live. There are clouds. Maybe Jelaine can show you. We've seen a lot of 2 spaces today, and we found out that they're related to each other. There's Bloom Building and Future Yard. We're really impressed with how this has happened in this area and how the council has supported it. I don't know the ins and outs, but I know that we don't have that at home, so I'm really glad to see what people can do with a bit of support. So why am I here? So YWMP is a project that is based in Oxford, and the main initiative is to support young women, trans and non-binary people to access music in the broadest sense. So the age group is around 14 to 25, but we tend to have people stay with us a lot longer than that. And it kind of goes from everything from like jamming together, making friends, hanging out, to attending courses. So like currently we're running sound engineering courses, music production, just whatever people are really into at the time. Like that's kind of what people are most into at the moment. And also hosting festivals and just carving out space for people to feel nurtured and supported in music in the broader sense. It's quite hard to explain all the details, but that's the general vibe. And we've been going for 24 years now, so it's definitely got a very tight-knit family. And this year, last year we got granted this money, but it's happening now, to do some work around safer spaces, and that's something that we hold really close to our ethos values of YWMP. The reason is because of like the experiences of musicians in our community and things that I've also experienced as a musician, and we want to do something to make a point and something that's actually going to impact our community. So this particular project is an exchange that we're doing across 5 cities, so Oxford, London, Liverpool, Leeds and Manchester, and we've collaborated with local partners who already have like a sense of the community and have their own like stamp on what they do in each city, and we're coming together to try and gather information, which you will see in front of you on the table, which is in the form of a survey currently to try and gauge people's experiences in live music venues, so that we can then create a policy which holds venues, promoters, bands, audience members accountable at gigs. And the idea is to shift the culture a little bit of what it's like to go to a show, as an audience member also, as well as a performer, to try and make sure that everyone feels comfortable, safe. I mean, you can't ever 100% make a space safe, I feel, but we're going to try our best to aim this at grassroots venues, mainly because we feel like larger venues have more infrastructure, so the smaller venues, it's more likely that stuff will happen and it will just not be, it'll just be under the radar and not ever come to the light, just because of what we've seen and experienced. But we'll find out across this journey what everybody else thinks. We also have a steering committee of people mainly in Oxford, but some people are coming in online, and like shout out to them. Hopefully they're watching. They came up with the survey and the sick poster, and they're really working on turning this into the policy, and we will be like checking in with all our partners throughout the next year or two to make sure that this policy like truly reflects what we're doing and that there are procedures that make sense. And then we'll be back next year to trial it. So this is like super exciting. It's okay. It's super exciting to be able to do this, and hopefully it will have like a long-standing impact. So yeah, that's kind of, I mean, people can ask questions later, but that's just why we're here. And I'm going to interview, we're kind of just having a chill chat, and then you can all get involved, with Zara Smile.
Hello, everyone.
Yay! I'm Zara, and we'll do our intros now.
Yeah.
This is the official order. I guess I'm the director. It's a weird word to use, but of YWMP. My journey of being on this project is I started accessing it as a teenager, and now I'm working for the project or with the project, however you see it. And I'm a drummer. I produce music, perform music, collaborate a lot, and my focus is very much on community music work, and connecting people more than anything. So that's who I am. Who are you?
Hello, my name is Zara Smile. I'm an alternative folk pop artist based in Liverpool. I'm originally from London. And I'm also a producer, a live sound engineer, and a promoter as well, like an events manager. Yeah, and a big part of like my music and my like branding is also creating a community and sort of, yeah, getting people together and feeling things. Yeah.
Amazing. We noticed from conversations that there are a lot of people doing sound that aren't cis men in Liverpool.
It's a good time.
I'm so impressed. We've got a course where there are 15 people training at the minute, so hopefully we'll see a similar thing happen in town. So where are we going to start? I guess there's the big question, which is on my list of questions, which is, what does safer space mean to you?
I guess I don't want to say a space which I feel safe in, but yeah, sort of like a space that I kind of know that if anything bad was to happen, that there'd be a way to get out of it, or a way to sort of deal with it in the moment, which I feel isn't really the case, or things that I'm like not really aware of in a lot of spaces. I feel like it's something that's not talked about a lot. Yeah.
And in the context of a live show, if you just imagine yourself walking into a gig that you bought a ticket for, say if it was Future Yard, just because it's like, I saw it today and it's in my mind. If you were walking into that space, what would you look for as signs to make you feel at ease?
I think the biggest one for me is, because I'm autistic and I get overwhelmed. Sometimes just like when there's too many people or there's too much going on, I always look for the toilets, because I know that I can sort of just lock myself away. And so I always look for like sort of, it's almost like a quiet space that you can just sort of go and take a breather for a second and then sort of come back out. Or like smoking areas as well. I found like, even though sometimes it can be like quite rowdy and loud in there, it's sort of like normally like an outside space and it's quite like calm and quiet. So yeah.
Yeah, this, what were they calling them? Someone put them on our amazing survey. Safe rooms.
Safe rooms.
What have you seen any venues that have those yet, or is it a new thing to you?
No, it was a completely new thing. Yeah, I'd never really considered. I think the toilets and smoking area was just subconscious. Like, I know in my head they're going to be a bit quieter, and maybe a bit more private. But yeah, I hadn't even considered that there could be like a specific room for like, yeah, because I know like me and a lot of my friends, like we go to gigs all of the time and we will get overwhelmed. Like it happens. Yeah, and having like a specific space for that would be like crazy. It'd be really, really good.
Yeah, I've heard that some larger venues do have them, so it's just like a quiet space that you can go to either get support, help, talk things through, or just be alone and have a bit of time on your own, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
What about your sort of relationship with security and how that seems? If it's, I don't know, like a slightly bigger show,
Yeah.
do you think you would approach security if something like an incident happened in the audience?
I think I'd be more willing to approach security if they were non-male. I feel like I've had bad experiences with like male security, specifically because I obviously grew up in London. I grew up going to gigs in London, and I've had like some pretty bad experiences with male security where they just don't really care that much. So yeah, if there was like a non-male security member, then I'd probably be more likely to go up to them rather than like a male one.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that we might be talking about, it's a bit late in the day now to say this, but I haven't said anything triggering yet.
Yeah.
If there is anything that we say that you find uncomfortable, you can, well, like, because we might say these things that might trigger you, you can always take space outside in this semi-outdoor space, just as a warning. And like some of the things we're going to talk about might be like, especially if you want to give an example of security, because it might also be helpful to hear the stories that we have to say or tell. I think for me in Oxford, we've had some pretty awful experiences with security. Last year there was like a specific incident which triggered this whole piece of work actually. And yeah, the security, like in our main venue in Oxford, we've seen like friends have been assaulted on like a Tuesday at 10 p.m. for just like going to the toilet and being like slightly late out the door, and being attacked by security and not being able to like close their jaw afterwards, and then, you know, not having someone to call at that moment, like most people wouldn't. And I think that it really hit home that this friend of mine could call me and be like, this thing happened, what shall I do? And I was just like, can you come back, please? I know that might not feel like the right thing, but I just want to try and deal with it now.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how many people like walk away from situations in venues where they just don't have anyone to ring, or they just don't have an idea of what they could do because there's just no sort of procedure. Or like, I don't know, have you ever seen or experienced things and then not actually known what to do? Because that's kind of what we want to get into place, is what can you do?
Yeah, I guess it's fight or flight, isn't it? And in that moment, I think most people would choose to just get away from the situation. And I feel like there's an epidemic of like, after it's over and you've calmed down, you're like, oh well, there's no point talking about it now because it's done and I don't want to like think about it. Yeah, I think I've had like similar experiences, maybe not as like extreme, but where I felt like uncomfortable. But it feels so almost like normalized, because like you just think, oh, it happens to everyone, but like there's not really like conversations happening about it. Yeah, so I think it's definitely something that needs to be spoken about more.
Yeah.
Especially in like the music scenes and like gig spaces.
Yeah, because it feels almost like your options are quite limited. It's like you either call the police, which not everyone or most people don't really want to do, and then because I've been on the end of the phone to like teenagers who are at like a bigger venue, like one of the more established named ones, and then like experience some kind of assault, and then they're like in a back room with the police and the venue, and it's just kind of like they're calling me at like midnight and just saying, I don't want to press charges, like I have my GCSEs this year, like what am I supposed to do? And then when you try to turn to the promoter, because that's kind of where I've gone with it, is you'll say to the promoter, you have some kind of responsibility here, like you booked the band, and like with this particular one, it was actually the band that were abusive to the audience. It's like, have you got some sort of like way that you vet who you book? Do you send an agreement to the artist? Do you send an agreement to the venue so that you're all on the same page?
It should be like in the contract, definitely. And as like a promoter myself, someone who's put like events on, I would be like so ashamed if that happened at one of my events. It'd just be like, like the worst thing ever. And it's definitely something you should take into consideration when putting on events.
I think it's quite a simple thing to put in place, and hopefully this policy will have that written in so that it's something that's just sent across the board to everyone involved in the show. Like, I think sound engineers as well are having stuff, because that, you know, sometimes that can be quite a big thing. Like the relationship between the sound engineer and the band. Like, you know, I've seen people walk out of shows crying because they've been screamed at in soundcheck. It's like, there's just so many layers to possibility of what could be potentially traumatizing and unsafe. And I think that's what I mean by like the culture of shows and like how they're set up and who has power in that space, because there ultimately is like, you know. But let me look at my list a bit more.
Go for it.
I mean, it's a good list. Let's talk about Liverpool, because we're here. I'm on a cloud. What are your, like, can you explain, like, as a musician, promoter, all the things you said you are? Your perspective of gigs. I mean, this might be quite a big one to try and unpack, but like, what is it like being wearing all those different hats in Liverpool?
I think it's been a positive experience so far. I really love the gig scene in Liverpool. I go to gigs pretty much every day at this point. I love the like music scene. Everyone's like really supportive, and I think there is like definitely like a big community feel, and I guess that helps with the safer spaces kind of vibe, because there'll always sort of be someone that you know, or like someone you know who knows someone else who you know. So it feels very like welcoming and quite nice. And having gigged a lot and having like being a promoter myself, I sort of gotten to know like a lot of the musicians in Liverpool and a lot of the promoters. It's a good scene. I like it here.
Wow, that's good though.
Yeah.
I mean, people can chip in with that later, because I'm sure there's layers to it too. But I guess, does it vary across your different roles? So your experience as a sound engineer, your experience as a promoter and a performer, like, have you had like generally good across the board? I'm not just getting you to tell horror stories, but
I guess I've been pleasantly surprised. I think I've definitely suffered more misogyny within the live sound stuff. I think because like typically bands turn up to a venue and expect like a man, especially because of my size. People kind of assume that I can't like carry the heavy equipment, or like, you know, like coil the cable as well, just because I'm not like 6 foot. And I think as an artist, like I haven't really struggled with like stuff, because usually like it's all my friends in the crowd or like people I know. And like with promoters and stuff, it hasn't been a huge problem so far. I definitely like, yeah, as a sound engineer, it's a lot harder, especially because like the venues I work at are all quite like DIY punk venues, and they're very like male dominated. But yeah, I think all around the board, it's okay. It's okay.
What do you think, as a sound engineer, could like what do you think could be put in place to make that feel better?
I'm honestly not sure. I think I like proving to myself that like everything is fine. If like a band comes in and they're like shocked to see me and not like and not a man, and just sort of doing the best job I can and sort of proving to them that like you don't need a man in place to do a good job. Yeah, and sort of just like proving it one band at a time and sort of dismantling those ideas myself. And like every time I see like an engineer who's non-male, yeah, it just kind of like sparks a little thing in my heart, and I'm like, okay, there are like people doing this, yeah, and it's something that we can like build to, yeah, break the stigma.
We were talking earlier, and Celine and yourself were both saying that you spent a lot of time having to ask for things.
Yeah.
And we were saying like, it's really like I like find that really impressive to hear, but also we were saying together like, not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
And like speaking and asking for things is like such a challenge.
Absolutely. You've got to have the confidence that you can do it, first of all. There's no like room to grow and learn. You've just got to be confident that you can, yeah, do the job well. And if you're not, then you're not going to ask.
And I guess that does tie into feeling safe, because if you feel like secure in yourself, but also, yeah, that also doesn't mean anything at the same time, because like, if you're walking into a hostile space and you feel good in yourself, like, it doesn't mean that you're going to walk away not being scarred by it. It's so complicated what we're bringing to the table here. I'm just like, everything I bring up, I'm just like, it's a culture shift, but also, how do you do that in the space of a year? It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is like, it's a massive, massive thing. Yeah, and it's just a lot of lives.
Yeah, a lot of lives. I just hope that it's kind of inspiring to see that conversations are being had and that people are serious about it and people are funding the change, because that in itself is, like, I haven't seen that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen other campaigns run, but not aimed at like the smaller people.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the grassroots stuff, it's just so much can just go under the radar that you would never see happen. Like, I mean, in Oxford alone, the things I grew up around as a teenager were very much like, there were just quite a lot of predatory characters around.
Yeah.
And they were, you know, they had so much power, and it meant that when you're like looking for shows, or you're looking for somewhere to rehearse, or you want someone to record you, you know, someone offers something for free and you just think, oh, that's nice. And then like when I was in a band, we were just like, nothing comes for free, because one of us would get hit on or something would happen that was just like, there's always a cost to this. And I think, I don't think that's changed.
I think social media has been a big help.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like even just like group chats on like WhatsApp just for like Liverpool music, and people will put a note on there and just be like, oh, I work with this person, like they aren't great to work with, or like they did this, and everyone, it's like sort of like a closed space, or like Instagram like stories and stuff where they'd be like, oh, maybe not this person anymore, and we're like, okay. Yeah, even if it's like not getting paid properly, or you know, like different people's experiences, like yeah, there's a big like community of like sharing, like, oh, I work with this promoter and they didn't actually pay me anything that they were promising, and you're like, okay, I won't go work with them then, or like I've had experience with this band, like they're not the best, and it's like, okay, then like yeah, there's like a big culture of sort of not kicking people out of the scene, but but like that's sort of just like being aware of the stuff that's gone on, and there's like quite a lot of like sharing experiences and stuff.
Yeah, this is something that came up in the Safer Spaces committee meetings. We've had 2, not many, but 2, and we were talking about a dickhead list, and we were just like, how do you create a dickhead list like without someone that's in charge of it having too much power over it? It's actually quite scary, the thought of having a list of people that, because, you know, but also if there are lots of shared experience around people that have caused a lot of harm, I feel like maybe it's the only way.
Yeah.
I find myself in a position a lot where people come to me with stories about individuals that operate in really messed up ways, and it's not always music.
Yeah.
But they use their position in the community to harm others, and it's like I guess we as a project have an approach that's like very much, what does the individual want, and how do we work together to like spread the word without it being like, just to make like raise awareness about that individual without it being like, because it's facts, right? If people are being harmed but they're like, there's nothing that they feel like they can do about it.
Yeah, I think it can very easily come across as like gossip or like people like questioning it and sort of almost making it uncomfortable to bring it up in the first place. And that's sort of something that like I've experienced definitely, where people like almost don't believe you the first time, then you have to like share everything that happened. And it's sort of being quite an uncomfortable experience to like spread awareness about maybe someone who's not acted in the way they should have.
It's a big one. It's a tough one.
It's a big one.
Yeah, because I guess like the behaviour is kind of like, it's ingrained in like, I don't know, just misogyny around industries anyway.
Definitely, yeah.
But like there are things you can practically do to create a safer space, I guess. Like the way that Ella has made tonight happen and all the social media stuff, I'm just like blown away by how much information was out there. Like everyone got a cool drawing and like a highlight on them. Which is so cool. And then also there was just so much care that went into it. I just want to shout that out because it's sick.
It's amazing.
And I think like what we do, and we have the posters around, is we have like what we don't tolerate, which you can see on the walls, and there's like a list of all the things that we don't tolerate, because this is as far as we've got. And we have like a vague policy, which is like, we've got your back if something happens, and we've got a phone number, so if someone, like you said, runs to the toilet because they've been harassed, or they go to the bar, then the bar staff, or if there's security, can then say, just text that number, and one of our staff who are safeguard trained, like up to level 3, would be ready to assist that person and see what they need.
Yeah.
And also like try to de-escalate the situation, because like we're not really in it for the fight. It's more like, how can we get the person to go, unless obviously the person who's been hurt by them wants to do something about it. But that's as far as we've got in terms of putting up warnings, or who we are, or what we will and won't tolerate.
Yeah.
But I think that's that's the beginning. Right?
That's definitely like, I think having a phone number is like a huge thing, because it means you don't have to actually go and speak to someone. You can kind of just like, it can all be very like under the radar. And I think like, I guess the biggest thing for me personally, like if something like that happens, it's almost like I don't want to make a fuss of it, or I don't want it to be like a bigger thing than it already is. And I guess like actually speaking it out loud is such a big thing, especially if it's like just happened. So having a number to like text is really, really handy.
With like the leaflets and the numbers to call, are they going to be passed out to bigger venues in this area as well, because we've had problems in bigger venues with women actually being injected in some of our big clubs and things. So I feel like it would be positive to have a number to call in those bigger venues as well if girls have been spiked.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a big
I've
thing
heard
that went
about
on.
this, yeah.
The injections are horrible. Yeah.
Our number is specifically for events we're at. But this is, if it's something that's going to be really useful and that it's something that we could then raise money for each city to have someone and a team that's allocated towards that, I mean, that would be amazing.
Like a safeguarding officer, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even having like one person appointed at a venue, like hired at the venue to be the safeguarding.
Like
Yeah.
who's at the safe room?
Yeah.
Who can just, take the...
So just kind of continuing on that, I'm also starting to put on gigs and organise gigs and things like that, but I am a one-woman team. There's just me, and would it be beneficial to bring in somebody else to assign that kind of job of a safeguarding officer? How would that work?
So there is this volunteer-led organisation called Safer Gigs for Women, and I'm pretty sure they operate across the UK. I've been to some shows where they have a table, but I just don't know how active they are in terms of like if something really kicks off, like would they take the responsibility on? But it feels like this seems to be the biggest thing, that we need like an allocated team for all the cities, even if it's just a couple of people that can show up and be at the shows, because it is tough if you're doing it all on your own.
Yeah, and then also if you have to find someone yourself to kind of employ in that situation, I feel like that would be difficult to find, especially since it's quite new, like a new scheme.
And finding someone who has the training as well.
Yeah.
There are some like low-key events that we run in Oxford where we have like our own club night, but we do them very small scale, and we do try to just communicate with the staff in the building, and obviously not put it all on them because they might feel uneasy about having to deal with that, but it's more like we would have a signal at least, so like if someone tries it, it's like I make a signal to the bar staff and they just turn all the lights on and turn the music off, and then the whole room is then takes account. Like we've had it happen in one of the nights where we're DJing and somebody, I'm not even going to say what they did, but it was just disgusting, and I got on the mic and the lights went on and the music was cut, and I was just like, who did this? Like, if you did this, please tell us. And then my friends who are part of the collective with me then dealt with the person, and the venue supported us by like just turning the lights on and like cutting the music for a bit. And I think that's like small scale, it just about works. But then the responsibility is then on you to have the conversation that's difficult with the person, and you might not feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I feel like as a woman, if it was a male, it would be very difficult. I would feel very uncomfortable in that situation, to kind of deal with that. So I don't know. I feel like the venue staff would be of help, or if the venue had security of any kind, hopefully good security, then they could, step in further for that.
Yeah, I think like one of the things we've done is we would talk through the policy with the security as well, especially if you're trying to make a safer space and you want it to be really open to marginalised groups of people. Like we would say to them, we don't tolerate any of this stuff, so like can you just keep that in mind, and like it's zero tolerance kind of. We don't want people to be turned away because they don't look like they fit the night, 'cause that's just also really messed up. So it's kind of like making sure everyone's on the same page, but it's so much work on the promoter. But I guess you can call upon your friends and try and have people dotted around.
I guess just having like an awareness of it, and and the stuff that could happen, and then maybe putting like some things in place, but obviously like all the pressure's not on you.
And we can share our posters, so you can print them, and you can put them all over, and it could be on your actual poster, like safer spaces in operation, because I feel like that when we've put that on there, I think people have seen it and gone, wow, okay, so I can show up there and I would actually be maybe more safer than if I went to the show down the road. Because it means, and also it might act as a way of
A deterrent.
A deterrent, exactly.
I guess like, yeah, if you put it on the poster, then the people who would make it not a safe space might be like deterred to come as well.
Yeah, I
if they
think
know
so.
that they can't act in the way that they'd want to, they might not come to a,
Yeah, there's something else we discovered. There's another night that happens in Oxford that they were letting, like, it was because we tried to make everything free as well, and I feel like the free thing also can mean that someone's like, oh, it's a free club night, I'm just going to come and like just have fun, even if their just mindset is completely different to what you're trying to achieve. So it was this thing about, and I saw today on their social media that they've decided to put a £5 fee, but then they're like, actually there are tons of free tickets. So it's like just that thing where if someone comes to the door then and you're like, this person's falling over drunk and they're just seem a bit rowdy, you could be like, it's £5 to get in, and they might actually just be like, no, I don't have the money. I will look around and be like, this isn't for me. I feel like there are loads of little ways you can try where it's not exclusive then, but it also like acts as a wall.
I have lost my voice, so I don't know if anyone's going to be able to hear what I say.
Yeah, that's why Ella's not up here.
But I think I just want to say on that idea of accountability, I think that's where a lot of things do fall through the gaps, because no one knows who's responsible for dealing with incidents, and that's actually what damages a lot of venues as well. So with a lot of the spiking incidents, some of those are affiliated to the venues and it was the venue's fault, but for others, spiking incidents can happen anywhere, and then it falls on the venue, that venue then is a venue where people have been spiked. And so I think something that's maybe really helpful when talking to venues about safe spaces is to emphasise the way that it protects them to have policy in place, because it means that it doesn't exclusively fall on them or like their bar staff, for example, or random people who work there and don't know how to deal with it. If there's a system in place, it's protecting everyone, not just people who are harmed. It's a safety net for you and your reputation, which obviously shouldn't be the main concern, but it is for venues when they're thinking financially. So say like for Georgia, running a one-person promotion company, if venues in Liverpool had individual safe space policies, which is important because you could have a policy as an organisation, which I try and do for Girlbands, but venues are so different. So the process I'd have for Bloom is incredibly different to the process I would have in a larger warehouse-style space, for example, because in Bloom, everyone's in one space. You know, I know that the staff have a level of understanding of the way that, you know, we'd want people to behave. I know the venue really well. I know spaces people can go. There's this porch that people can sit on. Those are all part of my policy. And to adapt that to each venue is quite difficult if you don't know what the situation is at each venue, who their security are. Like, I've been at events where I've got a safe space policy and the security won't talk to me. They'll only talk to the man at the bar because they're working at the venue. And then how am I meant to implement my safe space policy at that venue? So I think actually putting some emphasis on venues to have their own individual policy that they can inform promoters is probably a really helpful way to go about, dealing with that accountability. Even if their process is you as the promoter are accountable, at least then there's an understanding in place of what to do, who to speak to. You know, does the venue have an email address or a number or an account that people can message, that sort of thing. I think for me, if I define a safe space, it's to do with transparency and understanding what actually is happening in that space. I know that's not a question.
You
Sorry.
killed it. Amazing. Because I was thinking about what you're saying, and I'm thinking back to how the incident with the security attacking the audience member last year, and as soon as the venue were involved, all they did was just pull up the CCTV and then blame the person. Like, found whatever way they could to be like, well, you didn't leave when we asked you to leave, kind of thing. And it's just, or like the door swung back and hit the security in the face. It's like the door swings all the time. Like, let's just not put it on the door. Like, it's not the door's fault where it swung. Like, you rugby tackle someone to the floor. Like, let's just be real. So I feel like you're right. Such an amazing piece of information that I didn't really think about. That there's multiple layers of accountability.
Yeah, and I guess appointing one person that, like, or like the venue, the accountability for it happening is like, yeah, sort of like pointing it in a direction and, yeah, sort of pinpointing like where we should be like going for help or, yeah.
So every venue would be different, and every relationship between whoever, like how you run as a new promoter that's doing like it on your own versus someone who's got a team of like 5, would be completely different in each space.
Yeah, definitely.
When this process is established and when it's like in full force in all the 5 cities and in more places, will the police be aware of this I don't know what to call it, policy, or will they not? And will they have involvement, or would you rather not them have involvement in anything? Because obviously police is law, and then how does that affect, like, what is the idea?
I mean, I just would rather not have the police involved in anything.
But if it was a severe incident, they would have to be, and then...
Yeah, I guess that it depends on what the individual wants. Like, if they want to press charges against someone, then I guess you would need to honour that. Cool vibration. That was like
That
a
is my
whole
phone
new
ringing.
level of... It's okay. I think that the idea would be to get councils to enforce it first, and then, because like we've had some luck with some projects that we run where the council have like brought it up in front of the whole lot of them and then agreed on a motion towards stuff. I think that would be the first thing that we would want, and then I guess like the local police being aware that it exists, so if something did come up and someone wanted to involve them, that they would be aware of it. But they would be so far down the list on like how to deal with it, in my opinion. But it is a good question. Thank you.
This kind of touches on the accountability thing that you've talked quite a bit about. But in terms of like implementing the policy, who will it be targeted to? Is it the venue owners, the promoters that are bringing the artists in, or the artists themselves? What level does it kind of come in at?
I think for Oxford, because like that's the one that I think what we're going to try and do this year is target one venue. They don't know who they are yet, but we know who they are. That we're going to target one venue and try and get a venue to take it on board first, to see how that works, because it's all trial and error for us right now. But it's like everyone's wanting this stuff to happen, but it just doesn't seem like there's anything pushing towards it happening, apart from the misogyny in music report that came out, and like we know that exists and people are talking about it. But I think if we can get a venue to take it on and like try to up the level of how they operate, and for us to technically transform how they run, then we can spread that out to some of the promoters locally. But I feel like all of like the bands, the promoter, the venue and the audience, there needs to be accountability across the board.
On all levels, yeah.
Yeah, like the posters mean the audience are accountable, right? But then the band should be getting an email from the promoter saying this is what we do and this is what we will and won't tolerate, and the promoter should be also sending a similar one to the venue and having a conversation with the venue before they put on any shows, and then the venue should be sending one back, being like, this is what we will and won't. So it's just communication, right, between everybody, and then everyone knows that they're all on the same page. But it would be good to have like a, because I know Good Night Out campaign, and there's another one that's around physical accessibility that I forget the name of, and they have like a star system, and it's like this venue operates at this level because they have a ramp and like a bell at the bar so you can get a drink if you're a wheelchair user, like that kind of thing. So I guess like that could be the visible like signs that the venue's on board, is that they've got like a gold star in terms of this policy. And then that's how I'm imagining it, but who knows where we'll be in a year's time.
It's just made me think in terms of the way that it's implemented. Do you think it could almost be like a pledge that like venues or promoters take on, so that they're then like almost like they have that attached to them in the same way that you'd have a hygiene rating as a restaurant or something like that?
Like a badge or something.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I totally see it. We can come up with a cool name.
Yeah. It's interesting because we pulled out of a gig years ago now because there was an incident with members of staff who were quite high up in the venue, and that was a similar situation with accountability where it fell on the venue even though it was an individual's actions, and because they didn't have a process of accountability, it was like became this quite difficult thing to navigate. But we pulled out of the gig, and in response to that they were like, okay, fine, we'll get Good Night Out training. And that was quite interesting to me because they were like, we'll prove to you that we are a safe venue by getting this training. And they wouldn't have done that unless they'd had that incident where we called into, question if they were actually a safe venue or not publicly. So I think something like that where you can have a statement would be really interesting, I don't know, for people trying to, especially even like thinking of Georgia again. Like people starting out as promoters, if it's something that you can say to like prove to your community that you're working with the best intentions, maybe.
Yeah, like how seriously do you take it?
Yeah, if we could like, and also having like maybe like a forum for each city, maybe to just share experiences, but somewhere where it's not like closed off, like a WhatsApp group chat or whatever.
Yeah.
Having some sort of online space, and maybe having like a link to it in like a venue bathroom, or like having it like in the venues, and then having like a link to like a forum where you could sort of share your experiences of a venue.
Well, we've got this committee, and you're all welcome to join actually, which is like going to help shape how we do this, and we can share. It's like a closed WhatsApp group, and we're meeting once a month. It's not going to be like specific to each city, but that is a really good idea to maybe have somewhere where information is held per city that you can access, and it's got somewhere you can voice your opinion, but also like find stuff out, like the dickhead list.
Yeah, I guess sort of a overall dickhead list, but sort of having it where like venues can access it as well and say like, oh, we've seen that this has happened, so we'll now take this training to get to this place. Yeah.
Because we're trying to join up the dots so we're not duplicating work, obviously, as well at the same time, because we know Good Night Out are doing amazing work and Safer Gigs for Women are doing amazing work. But I feel like this is different as well. Any more questions? We've covered a lot of ground. No more? It's okay for there to be no more.
It's not a question, would be the list. I would like to add some words to that list.
Oh yeah, what would you like to add?
It would be fat phobia.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely, yeah.
What's the list, sorry?
So we've got a list of what we don't tolerate, and fat phobia I've seen on some other events which I recently saw, and I was like, we definitely should have it on our list.
I feel because people will quite casually just drop in a comment of that is fat phobic like in certain spaces.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people don't kind of think that it's that big of a deal, but it is, and it can be for some people.
100%,
Absolutely,
yeah. And we've made that list and added to it, especially with what's happening right now in Gaza. We always had Islamophobia on there. We never had anti-Semitism, and we added that because somebody brought to the table that if we're going to have one, then we need to have both.
Yeah.
So that's a new thing. But I think we should add anything that people feel is important to that list. So thank you for bringing it up, because it was on my mind and I did voice it, but we didn't put it on yet. Jelaine is the brain, so it's on the list, it's happening.
When you do finally get people into venues that are going to be working for you, what kind of training would you be giving them, or what kind of qualifications would you expect them to have to do the role?
So the main bit of training that we're looking to do is with Good Night Out campaign around de-escalation. So, and also we're quite interested to see how security get trained. I've heard some venues have done that, where they've gone to security training to just see like what the vibe is. So that there's that, but I don't know how many of us would do that. But the main training was with Good Night Out campaign, and then also for people to go through safeguarding training, which probably would need to be up to level 3, so that they can have enough knowledge to be able to deal with situations that come up. That's all I can think of for now, and I think probably we have methodology training just about how we run as an organisation. But I'm open to new things, and I think we should be. What else? What is there anything that you think?
Maybe because it's a night out, a qualification around maybe working with vulnerable adults, because even though they may not be vulnerable mentally, if they're intoxicated or they have been spiked, then of course they're vulnerable. So maybe something to do with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the safeguarding training that we do is very much aimed at young people, but I think vulnerable adults, there needs to be a policy for both, because they're really different as well, working with under 18s and then people that are classed as vulnerable adults, so it's really important. Thank you. Any more before we go to the music?
It's not a question, but just kind of going off what you said, Ellen. I think when you were saying before about the agreement that a promoter and a venue and the artist playing could have, I think it'd be really good if someone, I don't know who, whether that would be you guys or someone else, could kind of draw up just a stock agreement that independent promoters could use themselves, and maybe tweak it to what they want, but just it's quite a daunting task coming up with a contract or an agreement yourself, so it'd be really good if there's a little basis to go off.
Like a template.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially most of us have got other projects going on. I'm an artist as well. There's so many things, other things as well that are.
There's so much that goes into event planning as well. Yeah, booking the artist and making sure you're selling the tickets and everything. It's just another thing to think about. I think
But it's an important thing, and we do need to implement it. So having something that's kind of already done that we can just kind of send off would be great.
Yeah. And as well, actually, just you mentioned as a very small thing the Instagram of a venue, and I think you guys did that tonight, didn't you? You said our DMs are open all night, which I think is such a basic and small first step for a venue to take, but it's so simple and so useful just to know that if you're in a venue, whatever the size is, that you can actually message the Instagram or the Facebook account, and that someone will be on it all night checking it. Because I feel a lot of the time, just you wouldn't feel if you're in a venue that if you message them on Instagram, anyone's going to see that until 2 weeks later. So I think just for them to put out, we're on it all night, so if you want to message us, you can.
Yeah, that's a really good way of doing it without the phone number, because then it's to the venue, it's not to an individual. I think that's really, really cool. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Not a question, but just an idea. I work with a record label in Liverpool, and a lot of our gigs, we sell tickets. And like you were saying about sending the policy to the venue and the promoter and stuff, you could, if Skiddle maybe could agree to it and it goes out with the tickets to people that are buying the tickets as well, that'd be really good, so everyone already knows before they go to the venue what will be accepted and what won't.
Even like
Amazing.
having like the we do not accept like on the like list of like, you know, where the gig's happening or whatever, sort of having that information out there might even just deter someone who would be inclined to do any of those things to not go to the gig.
Yeah.
I think, like you're saying as well, like when you're doing that, like the booking process,
Like in
just
the description.
Like, yeah, and you can have like, you know, you take the terms and conditions, just have another one, which is
that you
by attending this
consent
gig, you are accepting
accept the policy.
these kind of things.
Yeah.
We Got Tickets is based in Oxford, so we'll hit them up immediately. But I think that's a really good shout, because then it just goes out straight away once you book the ticket, or even just before. I think having one line get all the promoters on board, and it just says a safer spaces policy is in operation, and then with the email comes all the info. Be really cool.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe just having it available online, just
yeah,
like as a website, like safespaces.com.
Like most like every time we put on an event, we'll have, well, I'm talking more about the club night, is that there is a pinned thing at the top of our Instagram which has the policy, and it's literally just that, but like we just say it's in operation, so you can use it, because also it says made by YWMP and allies, and that's like, you know, this is always going to be changing. That's also something we need to all accept. It's like we're never just going to have a safer spaces policy and it's done. Like I feel like things are always changing. We're always going to have to develop it. But we'll get the bulk of it done in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm probably like a little bit biased, obviously working for Bloom, and then I know a lot of the people from Future Yard as well, so I would definitely feel confident that if anything was to happen in either venue, that it would be dealt with correctly. And obviously you've got relationships with these two venues now. Have you had any like reluctant venues that say, no, we're not interested in what you're trying to do? And because that will happen down the line, but has it happened so far?
Not yet.
No.
But I would say that I have had it with a promoter where we've challenged him, and we actually, in like quite a healthy way, and invited him to have a conversation with us, and we were going to interview him, and he just stood us up and then just continued to badmouth us. But we challenged his behaviour as a promoter, and that's the only time it's happened so far. And then his behaviour continued across the UK, so then people started to like cop onto it a bit. But I feel like not with venues yet. But also I think it's similar to what Ella said, is as soon as we've told them this is not okay, they've gone, oh, we'll do the Good Night Out campaign training. But then it's also holding them accountable to be like, have you done it? Really? Did you really take the money out and spend it and do it?
Yeah, and then if you guys can find a way to verify that, then like you say, they get a badge of a safer space, so eventually those venues that aren't will just kind of fade out, or they'll just attract the crowd that really doesn't care about those issues, and they can have a bad night and you can all have a good night.
Thanks so much. I'm just going to do thank yous, and then I'm going to just let you do your set.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sound good?
I'll sing for a little bit.
Yay! Yeah. So I just want to thank Celine on sound, because it's been a dream working with you. It's been straightforward, great conversation. It sounds great. What more do you want? Where the Girlbands? I just keep wanting to say where the Girlbands at. I don't know why. Just get it out of the head. Thanks for just being amazing with communication and all the social media stuff around this, and just like knowing your shit. This has been great. I know your voice, basically Ella's voice has gone, so the in conversation you stepped in, Zara.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Also.
Okay. It was a pleasure.
And for being here and performing. And obviously the YWMP team, Jelaine is with me, my kid is here. We came up today and anyone who's watching and has stuck with it the whole time. And everyone who's like given their opinion, like it's been amazing. I really appreciate it. Bloom Building killed it. Thank you. And we'll be back next year, and we'll be in the loop. We'll keep you in the loop. Like, stay in touch. We're like open for having everyone involved in the conversation. If you want to fill out the survey, because the survey is like where we're collecting data. There's a QR code on that sheet which you can scan, and it will take you to a bunch of questions. And the team, the committee, just worked really hard on this. I had like 30 notifications just on the drive down here, up. So if you could scan it and maybe share it with people that you know would be able to give some nice feedback, and hopefully we'll share that around as well. And then that's it. That's it for me. I'm going to hand over to the other Zara to perform.
Perfect.
We're so lucky, we don't need any more. Take my hand, I'll walk you through the door. Oh, we're swimming in pools of our own reflections. We will stare at screens, convincing ourselves we like this. Inside we will scream of pain, of joy. This is what we wanted. Oh, we will dance in circles in a trance, 'cause we don't know which way to go. Oh, we will smile and just wait a while on the floor, a melting pot of dreams. They said you'll be happy. Oh, look in the mirror, look at what you wore. Don't you notice that we all fell for your face tuned disguise? We're too busy to notice you're not there. We can't tell that you're in deep despair. We just want to be you. Oh, we will dance in circles in a trance, 'cause we don't know which way to go. Oh, we will smile and just wait a while on the floor, a melting pot of dreams. But broken dreams don't count as memories, and no one ever seems to be happy. Maybe we're all just faking happy. Thank you. I can't believe I wrote that when I was 17. I turned 21 in October, and it is so 17-year-old me has some very profound things to say. I was like stuck in my room during lockdown. I was like, oh my god, I'm spending too much time online that I've completely distorted my view of myself. And that's how happy came about. This next one is called Human. I wrote this during a not very good time in my life, but it kind of changed things for me because I knew something had to change when I'm writing the lyrics. I don't feel human. But yeah, this is Human, and I hope you enjoy. I had a dream about you, you took off as fast as light. Woke up in the morning, finding it hard to forgive. You rolled over like there's nothing wrong. Why does this all feel so real when there's nothing going on? and I can't tell, I can't feel, I can't get rid of the taste of your poison. How can it linger for? I can't stand it, I can't take it, missing 100 days at a time. This is getting so out of line. I don't feel human. Why do I not feel human? The vision's getting blurry, the shapes are getting hard to make out. Got lost on a walk, trying to figure my brain out. Why does it all feel so flat? Why can't I feel something? Why does this all feel so real when there's nothing going on? And I can't tell, I can't feel, I can't tell, I can't deal, I can't get rid of the taste of your poison. How can it linger for? I can't stand it, I can't take it, missing 100 days at a time. This is getting so out of line. I don't feel human. Why do I not feel human? Oh, I don't feel human. Why do I not feel human? I don't feel human. Why do I not feel human? When I do that one, I always have a band that usually play with me, and when I do that one live with the band now, I get to like actually scream in the middle of it, and it's so good. It's almost like so therapeutic.
Give me 2 seconds while I just tune down to drop D. I have one song in drop D, and I'm so dramatic about it. Every time I have to tune down, I'm like, guys, let's tune down.
I need to write some more songs for the drop D. But yeah, this is a little queer love song. We're sort of alternating between happy and not so happy vibes today. This is a love song I wrote for my girlfriend. We met just over a year ago now, actually. Yeah, and I wrote this a month into us dating, and it took me 6 months to ask her to be my girlfriend. But now we're here. This is called Pretty. I hope you enjoy. It's all so sweet, where you touch, where you kiss like never before. It's all so real, never thought it would feel this right. Sit in the park at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. You capture the lights like no one's ever seen. Tangle our legs together and quietly dream. Your arms around me feel so sit and not watch movies with you. I just wanna listen to our favorite songs till we get through. You radiate the sunlight and the moonlight and all between. The angels sitting on the clouds, watching beneath. Your arms around me feel so right. Never wanna let go. All my life I wanna know every inch of your skin and everything in between. I wanna know all the places you've been, and I wanna know what you've seen. You light me up in a way I've never felt before. You were standing before me, and you're so pretty, I can hardly breathe. 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 Thank you. We're back. Okay. Did that get really loud? Or is that just me? No. Okay, cool. Right, we're going back to not so happy. Very sorry. But as some of you may know, I am neurodivergent. We are probably autistic, potentially ADHD. Not even I know at this point. But I went to this gig recently in the summer. And everyone I was talking to, it just felt like there was like a wall between me and the person, and they were reading like some script of like some foreign language. I felt like everyone had like a code for the conversation that I just did not have. And so I came home and I wrote this very dramatic song about it. This is called Typical. Hope you enjoy. Heard you open the door, made me jump, you laughed. I feel everything 10 times more. I am stuck, losing the same game every time you enter the room. It's like I've got something to prove, and you've got nothing to lose, 'cause you're not playing, and I can't let that go. I can't help it, I'm just breathing out the last of it. Smile and nod away, pray that they don't see that you don't get it. You don't get to be typical. You're not typical, not yet. Sitting round the table, catching eyes with the people who are laughing and chatting with their friends. I know I should join them, but I feel completely detached from what you just said. It's like I've got something to prove, and you've got nothing to lose, 'cause you're not playing, and I can't let that go. I can't help it, therapy. It's just like, just getting to scream on stage is the best thing ever. Okay, we're going back to light-hearted and upbeat. This one, light-hearted and upbeat, that was right, yeah. I didn't want to say light, beat and up-hearted. Right, this next one is about 3 of my exes in one. It's called Puppet. I can't stand to look at you anymore. Seems like a push and then you're out the door. Suddenly it all comes back crawling in. You're the only one who can get under my skin, making me squirm with the words you say, reminding me of the games you used to play. You apologize, but I refuse. Guess that's just what I'm used to. I look back and I want to scream. Where did I go wrong? Mistreated like 100 times, still I go back and listen to your songs. Growing older every day, but living in the past that never existed. I tried to resist, but you held me like a puppet in a play of your own design. And I didn't mind. No, I don't mind at all. You text me, it's over again and again. My own saying no to this screaming in my brain. Leave you on red to give me time to think. At this point you're driving me to the brink. I can't help you now. Where did I go wrong? Mistreated like 100 times, still I go back and listen to your songs. Growing older every day, but living in the past that never existed. I tried to resist, but you held me like a puppet in a play of your own design. And I didn't mind. No, I don't mind at all. Da da da. Da. So fun to play. Okay, next up is my song Spotlight. If people don't know, I am half Pakistani, so mixed race, and I felt like a lot of the time my life was just in a bit of a grey area. Like I wasn't really sure what my sexuality or my gender was. I was like mixed between these 2 very different cultures, and sort of like growing up like as one big grey area. I wrote this song about it and feel like I didn't really have a community, and through it I've managed to build a community, which is very fun. This is Spotlight. It all seems like it's getting too much and I'm running out of time. Just want a simple life with you by my side. It all seems out of line. Feels almost out of place, being heard, feeling strong. In the shadows stay small, years and years we've been told. It seems we're out of time. Growing, learning my place in the world. Can't be too small, can't be anything at all. Out of the spotlight is where I'm meant to belong. In the darkness the anger grows, silent rage to never close. Just want a simple life with you by my side. It all seems out of line. had a person like me on the screen, turning green with envy. All those girls who didn't look like me. It seems we're out of time. Growing, learning my place in the world, realizing I'm not that kind of girl. Can't be too confident, can't be too small, can't be anything at all. Out of the spotlight is where I'm meant to belong. Growing, learning my place in the world, realizing I'm not that kind of girl. Can't be too confident, can't be too small, can't be anything at all. Out of the spotlight, I don't belong. I don't Thank you. Okay, I just have one more for you tonight, but this is maybe my favourite song to play live, and it's such a juxtaposition to what I was just talking about, because this is just about loving and accepting who you are. I wrote this as soon as I figured out that I was non-binary, and I was just like, this is why I hate wearing dresses. This is not just something superficial. But yeah, this is Misplaced. Feel free, I know you're all sat down, but feel free to have like a little boogie in your seats, if you so wish. I've been Zara Smile. Thank you so much for having me on the panel as well. It's crazy. It's my first ever panel. Yeah, you can check out my music everywhere on all streaming platforms. I'm just Zara Smile, and on social media I'm Zara Smile with a 1 instead of the I, because the original was taken. Don't feel one way or the other, catching my breath. Gotta find my way through this mess. They say you should feel pride, but deep inside I'm struggling to find myself in a dress. Oh, I'm tired of playing this little game, so uninspired. We don't owe you anything, fitting into our little boxes, finding our space. Oh, I'm tired, oh, I'm misplaced. Whoa. Lowering my voice, standing up tall. Dysphoria rules me, but I can't control it all. When it mashes up my insides to look something like me,